Demon House of Gary, Indiana, also known as the Ammons haunting case, is one of the most well-documented and chilling paranormal cases in modern history. This terrifying event, which took place in 2011 to 2012, involved a mother, Latoya Ammons, her 3 children, and numerous credible witnesses, including police officers, social workers, and even medical staff, who all reported unexplainable and supernatural occurrences in the house. The case gained national attention, leading to investigations by both paranormal experts and mainstream authorities, and eventually inspired the documentary Demon House by ghost hunter Zach Bagans. In November 2011, Latoya Ammons moved into a small rental house on Carolina Street in Gary, Indiana, along with her mother, Rosa Campbell, and her 3 children, ages 7, 9, and 12. The home itself was modest, just a simple 1-story house with a basement. At first it seemed like any other house in the neighborhood, but within weeks, strange things began happening. The first signs of paranormal activity were relatively small. Buzzing flies swarmed their enclosed porch in the dead of winter. Footsteps could be heard from the basement when no one was there, and shadowy figures seemed to move through the house at night. The family brushed off these occurrences at first, but things quickly escalated to the point where they could no longer ignore the terror unfolding around them. One of the first truly horrifying incidents occurred when footsteps were heard climbing the basement stairs, and a deep growling voice echoed through the home, sending chills through everyone inside. The family also reported seeing black figures moving around at night and even hearing whispers in the dark corners of the house. As weeks passed, the entity in the house seemed to grow stronger and more violent. The children especially became the focus of its wrath. They were thrown across rooms by an invisible force, and sometimes woke up with mysterious scratches and bruises. One night, Latoya found her 12-year-old daughter levitating above her bed, completely unresponsive. Family members screamed and prayed until the girl suddenly dropped onto the mattress and awoke with no memory of what had happened. The youngest child, just 7 years old, began having conversations with an unseen presence, speaking in a voice that was not his own. The boy told his mother he could see a dark figure with red eyes, lurking in the shadows, watching them. By this point, the family was desperate for help. They reached out to local churches, but many priests refused to get involved. However, one pastor finally agreed to visit the home, and what he found terrified him. The pastor confirmed that he believed the home was infested with demons. He suggested they perform a house blessing using prayer and holy water. While this gave the family temporary relief, the activity only worsened in the following days. At one point, Latoya and her mother took the children to the hospital, desperate for help. That's when things took an even more terrifying turn. While in the emergency room, hospital staff witnessed the youngest boy walk backward up a wall, defying gravity. A nurse, a doctor, and a social worker were all present and later documented the event in official medical records. They said the boy flipped over and landed on his feet as if something had lifted him. The social worker was so disturbed that she contacted the Indiana Department of Child Services DCS, which launched an investigation. Police officers, including Captain Charles Austin, also got involved. Police officers and DCS caseworkers visited the house, expecting to find evidence of child abuse or mental illness. Instead, they found something they could not explain. During their investigation, they heard unexplained voices and saw strange, wet footprints appear on the floor out of nowhere. One officer took a photo of the house and claimed to see a demonic figure peering out from the window. Despite the home being empty at the time, Captain Charles Austin, a veteran officer, initially did not believe in ghosts. But after experiencing malfunctions with his police car, hearing voices on his radio, and feeling an invisible force pushing him, he changed his mind. He later said he would never set foot in that house again. The exorcisms battling the demon. By this point, Latoya's possession symptoms had worsened. She would fall into trance-like states, speak in deep voices, and sometimes become physically violent. She and her children were taken to a Catholic priest, Father Michael Magano, who agreed to perform an exorcism. Father Magano conducted 3 exorcisms on Latoya, 2 in English and 1 in Latin. During the rituals, she would convulse, scream, and feel unseen hands gripping her. The priest later stated he had no doubt she was under demonic influence. The family eventually moved out of the house, and the disturbances finally stopped. The house's dark secret and final fate. After the family left, paranormal researchers and journalists tried to uncover what made this house such a hotbed for demonic activity. They discovered that the house sat on an old burial site, and the basement contained a trapdoor leading to an area of disturbed soil, possibly a grave or ritual site. Years later, paranormal investigator Zach Bagans from Ghost Adventures bought the house for a documentary. His crew experienced terrifying events, including strange illnesses, nightmares, and violent outbursts. Ultimately, Bagans demolished the house in 2016, saying it was too dangerous to remain standing. The aftermath. Is the curse still active? Although the house is gone, many who entered it claim they were permanently affected. Some lost their jobs, suffered from illnesses, or experienced unshakable feelings of dread. Even skeptics admitted there was something deeply wrong with that house. To this day, the Demon House of Eerie, Indiana, remains one of the most well-documented and terrifying paranormal cases in American history. Whether you believe in demons or not, the overwhelming eyewitness testimony, official reports, and recorded evidence make this one of the most chilling hauntings ever recorded. In 1974, a young man named Ronald DeFeo Jr. brutally murdered his entire family in their home in Amityville, New York. Just a year later, the Lutz family moved into the same house, unaware of its dark history, and soon experienced terrifying paranormal events that would forever tie their names to one of the most disturbing hauntings in American history. On November 13, 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr. killed his parents, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters while they were sleeping. The family members were shot with a rifle in their beds, and the killings were so silent that neighbors didn't hear any screams or sounds of distress. DeFeo was arrested after he confessed to the crime, but he claimed voices told him to kill his family. He was convicted, but the details of his claims sparked widespread interest and speculation. A year later, George and Kathy Lutz, along with their 3 children, moved into the DeFeo house at 112 Ocean Avenue. The house was a bargain, but soon after moving in, they began experiencing unsettling occurrences. The family reported hearing strange noises, such as banging doors and loud footsteps, as well as feeling a malevolent presence in the house. Over the next 28 days, the Lutz family experienced increasingly terrifying events. Cold spots and slamming doors. Rooms would suddenly become freezing cold, while doors slammed shut without explanation. Strange odors. The smell of rotten meat would appear and disappear mysteriously. Psychic disturbances. George Lutz began waking up at 3:15 a.m. every night, the time when the DeFeo murders were believed to have occurred. Visions and voices. The children saw strange apparitions, and Kathy felt like she was being physically attacked. Transformation of the house. The Lutz family claimed the house seemed to take on an almost demonic quality, with the walls warping and the house itself appearing to shift and change. After enduring what they believed to be a true demonic possession, the Lutz family fled the house after only 28 days. They left behind nearly all their belongings, unable to explain the terrifying events that drove them out. The Amityville horror story became a sensation, with numerous books, documentaries, and even films made about the haunting. Skeptics have questioned the legitimacy of the Lutz's claims, suggesting they might have fabricated the story for fame or financial gain. However, the case remains one of the most famous paranormal events in history, with many still believing the house is cursed. This story continues to intrigue and scare people to this day, leaving behind a legacy of fear tied to one small house in Amityville, New York. Subscribe to our channel to hear more such stories.